Our farm was founded here in 1968 by my dad, Florian, and Leona. They moved here from a little farm near Jericho, Iowa. And the history of this farm is that it was known as the poor farm. Nobody ever actually made a living here until my dad actually bought it. About 2006 is when we really started changing a few things, but it wasn't until 2009 when my son Roland was diagnosed with a pineoblastoma that we started losing land, and in a matter of 2-3 years we went from 2,500 acres that we were managing and operating down to 600. And that's when I had to start learning, and I had to do better with what we had.
Loran is the type of person, he's not afraid to make a change. And I just trusted in the process. And I just got behind him, and usually every change we made, there was a risk. Sometimes we failed, but we always learned from it.
2006 is when we started doing the interseeding in corn. I knew I needed the diversity in that, but I just couldn't figure it out until it was when Roland was sick. I would throw myself into the shop, building equipment, researching what we were doing wrong, how we could do better. That's how I kept my mind off of Roland's illness.
And that's really why we started changing, is so we could have more family life. He just switched the whole farming operation, and he was involved in the whole journey and the radiation and chemo.
To me, the best return on investment right now is the return on family time, the return on friendship, stuff like that. The people around me has probably been the most critical investment I've ever made.
I've always appreciated his ability to be open-minded and his willingness especially to share and invite people to the farm to share his experiences, good or bad, and then be able to tell that story and then help others then come into that world and learn from it.
Educating other farmers to me it's pretty simple. Hands-on and farmer to farmer. Get them out in the field and show them what is going on.
Anything from large presentations to growing overseas to as simple as a text message or a phone call to an individual. He's always willing and open. Peer-to-peer engagement is very, very big.
My dad started no-tilling in the early 80s. Our rotation then at most was corn, alfalfa. We started learning, hey, we could probably make no-till work. That's how I could inject diversity into our corn-on-corn system. By 2006, we kind of started doing field scale testing. By 2012, we were doing whole fields instead of just field scale. And then by 2014, every acre of corn was getting the interseed cover crops in corn. And it's like, well, cover crops are great, but if we can start figuring out how to generate more revenue with cash crops, that's pretty cool too. That is kind of what gave way to what we call the relay cropping now. For those that don't understand what relay cropping is, it's the act of planting crops in a different season and then harvesting either together or separate. We plant the cereal rye in the fall in paired rows, and we leave a gap for the soybean. Come through in the spring, the rye is emerged. We go in, sneak in between the rows, we plant the soybean at a normal time. About mid to late July, then we will go in and sneak the cereal rye out. With the soybeans already usually 6 inches to 2 foot tall. And that allows us a cash flow. By the time we harvest the soybeans on a normal year, when we run the numbers, I can compete with 250 bushel an acre corn. Some of the key pieces to make the relay cropping work, and that is number one, the drills. We already had the drills set up to interseeding corn. Now we space the wheels out on our combines and all that to allow us to go down in between the rows and not harm the soybeans as we're taking out the cereal rye, and then we'll come in the fall and cut the soybeans.
What we've been able to do is take what Loran's doing here, expand it to other farmers around the state. Now that practice is really taking off throughout the state, and we're seeing great results. Loran is very forward-thinking, and he's willing to try anything. And so we've been able to work together through the Iowa Flood Center to bring out hydro stations that measure soil moisture, rainfall, and then we're able to then take that and get evapotranspiration. We use that data to learn how the practices that Loran's doing on this farm handle rainfall. differently than a conventional field. So far, the data that we've been able to collect here, we've been able to show that that would actually have a huge impact on potential flooding in these watersheds. And then we're able to use that data to show not only other farmers how they can impact the landscape and the rivers and streams around them, but also show legislators, congresspeople, conservationists, anybody, how what happens on the land can have a direct impact to our rivers and streams. So in Iowa, we have trout. And the cool thing about trout, if they're present, they're a very representative species of good water quality. And there's a tiny stream here that runs right through Loran's farm. We were able to bring the DNR down and show that there are trout reproducing right here, right behind his barn. And that wouldn't happen if he were not taking care of the land around it.
How did I feel when I won the award? I think it's safe to say the emotions leaked out a little bit. And every time I think about the significance of that, the heart still wells up a little bit.
I'm just so proud of him. He's worked so hard. This has been a very humbling experience for him, but also for me to watch him go through this and see all the risk and the changes that he has done has been for the better of our environment.
In the conservation world, you see a lot of times where people that have been doing the right things for a long time don't get recognition. It's just kind of taken for granted. And so it was great to see somebody that's been kind of a front runner in this whole thing to get some recognition. And I think he embodies the spirit of the Leopold and being a steward of the land.
We as farmers, we do have an impact on the greater system. I want to see what we can do better.